Hi, ThatPaulGuy. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I'm going to do this more like a live stream than I would an edited video, so we'll see what happens, and we'll see if I'm any better at this than I am at that. It's highly doubtful. It's more like a 6 of one, half dozen the other type of thing, right? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see if we can get through this together, and if I can, maybe I'll do more like this, and if we can't, well, maybe I'll still do more like this. Who knows? Anyway, if you're into the tech channels at all, you probably woke up this morning and you saw a bunch of your favorite YouTubers with a surprise-faced emoji all over, and that's because NVidia made their announcement yesterday of 3 new video cards. NVIDIA makes video cards. They're one of 2 main companies, or 2 major companies that do this, and they are the leader in video cards. They made an announcement yesterday with they're bringing out 3 more video cards in their RTX line, which is the one that handles real-time ray tracing and some other effects. What does this mean for us? Well, it means we can play Fortnite at 8K at 60 frames per second with the ray tracing on. But seriously, they've announced the RTX 3070, the RTX 3080, and the RTX 3090. Now, currently, the highest-end gaming video card that NVIDIA makes, which is the highest-end video gaming card there is on the market, is the RTX 2080 Ti. This thing is a beast. It will handle 4K video, 60 frames per second with the ray tracing, the real-time ray tracing on, and it takes advantage of something called digital learning supersampling, or DLSS. You might hear that, or you might have heard of that before. So it will handle, in most cases, 4K, 60 frames per second with ray tracing on. Of course, it will do much better than that with the ray tracing off, but it's an intensive process to be able to do the shadows and the reflections and all that stuff that get handled during the real-time ray tracing process. So the 2080 Ti, the king of the land right now as far as gaming. There is a Titan that's above, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But now all of that normally retails for about $1,200 can be handled for a whole lot less than that. As a matter of fact, it can be handled by the RTX 3070, which is going to have pretty much the same capabilities and same design and the same efficiency of that 2080 Ti at about 66% of the cost. So where you would normally spend $1,200, maybe $1,400 on a RTX 2080 Ti, you're now going to get that same performance for the whopping price of $499. Now, this is their baseline to start with of their upper tier. They will have some other cards coming out later, like an RTX 2060. They did the same thing. I mean, RTX 3060, like they did with the 2060s and so on. But for the time being, 3070, 3080, 3090 is what they're announcing. And the 3070, they are saying, has the same performance and the same efficiency as their flagship 2080 Ti for $500. What that means for us is that some of us that are gaming at 1440 will now look to game at 4K as the standard. So that is pretty impressive in itself. Now, the next one that they're talking about is, of course, the 3080 Ti, the RTX 3080 Ti, which will come in at a whole whopping $700. Now, we're talking about performance that is more, or performance that is better than their flagship is now going to be handled by the 3080. Now, we're still not into Titan range. We'll get there in a second, but this card now is going to be $700. It will come out on September 17th. The 3070 will come out on the 24th, and this is now going to be able to do all that much better. So we're probably talking, we're probably talking quite a bit in the area of at least 90 frames per second. I'm sure there'd be more than good enough to handle RTX and VR at 4K. If you have a headset that would be like that, I can only imagine what the limitations are. But we're only talking $700, which is the price that you would pay, or a price that is retail, or a little bit less than retail, for a current 2080 by itself, RTX 2080, which is, pretty much a top-of-the-line card. The last one they announced, the big animal, the RTX 3090. This takes up a whopping 3 full spaces, or maybe a little bit more. It's longer. It's higher. This thing takes a whopping 350 watts of power, and it's a direct rival to the Titan. The RTX Titan, which is now a $2,500 card, the performance will be matched by a mere $1,500. And you think $1,500, that's crazy. That's an insane amount for a video card. But yet you had people paying $1,200 to $1,400 all day long for a 2080 Ti. Now, sure, that's out of my range and might be out of your range. But these people that are enthusiasts, that are frontline enthusiasts, and people that really want the next biggest thing right now are looking at a card like this, and they are going to get it. Now, they are going to have to worry about some power delivery options. NVidia is also making power supplies, or they'll come out with their own line of power supplies that will automatically have a 12-pin adapter for the power options on these cards, all three of them, because they pull anywhere from the 3070 pulling 220 watts to this one pulling the 3090 pulling 350 watts. But they will have a 12-pin, native 12-pin connector, whereas you'll have to have an adapter with current power supplies. What this does mean also is that those of us that have been getting away with using smaller power supplies for our builds because CPUs and GPUs have been more efficient are now going to have to step back into those 650 watt or 750 watt power supplies to handle these beasts. So that's the option there that we're looking at. What this means is with the RTX 3090 being as good or better than the Titan, this means that this card will be able to handle 8K at 60 frames per second with the real-time ray tracing on. Now think about that. We're talking about, some of us are talking about going from 1080p or 1440 up to 4K for something that's fairly reasonable. This card has now made affordable, in many people's eyes, going to 8K at a playable 60 frames per second with the real-time ray tracing on. That's an enormous amount of detail handled very quickly on a very large scale. So it's pretty impressive. And the AMD has got its work cut out for them, both with the game consoles and with the upcoming video cards, the big Navi video cards that are coming out. Don't forget, AMD handles the PlayStation 5 and it handles the Xbox Series X, all the internals and hardware that are coming in both of those. So that's all being handled by AMD, as well as the big Navi cards that are coming out later this year. So they've, not only has NVIDIA taken a shot at AMD and the game consoles, they've kind of taken a shot at themselves. Because what's going to happen now is you've got these three powerful video cards coming out for a very reasonable price. You've upscaled, or you've basically doubled the performance and efficiency of the last generation, making some of those cards almost obsolete. And the used market for 20s, the 20 series like the 2070, the 2080, 2080 Ti, and the Titan are now going to have to plummet. You're talking about people that might have bought a 2080 Ti for $1,200 a month ago that next month are looking at getting a 3070 for half as much or less than half as much, if they can find it. We'll see what the availability is, but these are all the reference design prices. Now, I'm sure board partners will probably just be a little bit more expensive, but still, you're talking about something that's very, very affordable. If I can go out and I can buy myself 2080 Ti performance for $500, that's something. I mean, I paid $479 for the 2070 that I've got in my machine right now. So it's something that can be afforded, and you're talking about an incredible amount of performance. You are talking about, like I said, a different power delivery system. You are talking about the bottom dropping out of the used video card market. You are talking about AMD really having the kind of the pressure put on them, and we'll see how all that falls out. But there is one thing that I haven't mentioned yet that is very important in these video cards that also makes it more efficient and able to handle things more quickly. The signal delivery system, or the data delivery system in these cards, typically for a video card, the information comes off of your solid state device or a flash drive or whatever, and it goes to the CPU, and that gets handled and processed by the CPU, gets put in the memory. Memory, does whatever processing it has to do to it, goes back to the CPU, and the CPU says, all right, now it's ready to handle and send to the GPU. It's ready to go to the graphics card now. So everything comes in and it's all handled by the central processor, and it says, okay, we're looking at this, we got it figured out, we processed it, good. Okay, graphics card, you can have it now. These cards, this series of cards, has architecture built into it where it will automatically take that information directly off of the solid state device, process it itself without ever having to rely on the CPU or the bus speed. That means that no matter how fast your computer is clocked at or your CPU is clocked at, it won't make any difference, because it doesn't matter how many cores your CPU has. It doesn't matter whatever. These cards will now take all of that workload from your CPU and put it on themselves instead, meaning that things can be processed, load times, just general processing and figuring and the numbers game, basically number crunching, can all be done directly from the SSD and never have to worry about bothering the CPU, who's going to be busy with their own tasks. So you're talking about games running more quickly. You're talking about things loading more quickly. You're talking about huge amounts of data being processed more efficiently. You're talking about probably huge, I mean, you would be able to notice a huge difference in just your CPU, things that your CPU are handling. Say if you're playing a game that's an open world game, the CPU is working to try to lay out all this land before it tells the GPU, okay, here you go, this is the land. It's going to be able to do that more efficiently because it's not having to rely on trying to build that and take information off a solid state device. The GPU can handle half that load. That's huge. So that in itself is a big thing, and that's enough to get me excited about a card like this. Doesn't get me excited about trying to look for a 4K monitor or a couple of 4K monitors to try to upgrade what I've just finished upgrading, or basically upgrading for 1440. But it gives me something to put, it gives me something to set goals for, I guess. Anyway, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Are you waiting for AMD to see what happens? Are you just strictly going console? Are you sticking with the old generation of console no matter what the PS5 and the Xbox look like? Are you looking at trying to upgrade soon, or are you not looking at doing anything at all? I'm just kind of curious. I know my thoughts are kind of straying too, and I've seen what some of the other tech YouTubers have said, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting, but this year cannot get any weirder. And something like this is a major, it's like throwing the gauntlet down at everybody, including themselves. So we'll see what happens. Expect, if you are a casual gamer and you just wish you had that nicer video card to go in your system, stay tuned, because when these come out, I'm sure that those 20 series cards, the bottom's going to drop out in the used market, and you should be able to find those on places like eBay and all that stuff pretty easily. So that's all I got for this time. I know I rambled on. I know it was a little bit longer. Sorry about that. It's kind of a new format, kind of a new thing to try, and hopefully it went okay. I'll know in editing, but regardless of the way it looks when I edit, I'm going to leave it as one long take. So we'll see how it goes. I invite you to do all those YouTube things, thumbs up, thumbs down, leave me any kind of comments, leave me your thoughts. And until next time, folks, that's all I got. So I'll see you later.